Hello everyone and welcome to the final round of this year's Sinquefield Cup where the leader Fabiano Caruana is facing off against Rapport, who is not having the greatest tournament, still without a single win. It's not easy to win against this opposition, even Fabi having only 2 wins against Alireza and Wesley so, but whoever you beat is an incredibly strong player and it goes a long way. And in the previous video we've mentioned that Fabi reached this new plateau. He once again hit 2800 on the live ratings list, and now it's sort of a different universe to exist in. And now, whoever you're playing, it's sort of the case for Magnus for the past decade. Whoever you play, if you draw, you lose rating. And then, okay, it was also true before this game because he was very close to 2800, but now that he actually broke 2800, now that's also maybe a psychological barrier that you have going into every game. I'm not saying, or I don't even think that Fabi would have such a barrier. I think he just plays every game to win as much as he can. But still, it's nice that now we have two 2800 players in the world. It's not official yet. Still, Fabi has ended the month with 2800 on the live ratings, but as there are no more tournaments after this one, I'm guessing it will be possible. So let's check it out. Fabi has the white pieces and he opens with pawn to d4, and Rapport goes for knight to f6. We have c4, c6, preparing for the Slav defense, knight to f3, and the d5. The Slav defense is on the board, knight to c3, and e6 transposing into the semi-Slav defense. We have e3, and now there are some moves that are usually played here. Knight b to d7 is the top move here. There are some others like bishop to e7, bishop to e7 can be played, bishop to d6, a6 are maybe some of the lesser played moves, but Rapport plays g6, and it's a very rare move and very rarely played at the top level. So bishop to d3, we have bishop to g7, and now both players castle. We have pawn to e4, and Fabi plays d captures. Sorry, Rapport plays d captures on e4, and now Fabi does not play knight captures, and there are some 35 games maybe in the database where knight captures was played. He actually plays bishop captures on e4, showing that 2800 can play literally anything, and it looks weird. Why would you allow knight captures on e4? But knight captures on e4 is not a very impressive move to play, because if you play this after knight captures on e4, try and find a move for black here. It's really not easy. Whatever you decide to do will be met with some sort of a bishop to g5 move that gains control over f6, and it's just very unpleasant. Okay, e5 is the top move recommended by the engine. It's a pawn sacrifice, but you know, if you have to concede to a pawn sacrifice on move 10, then already you've messed something up. If it's you know, a voluntary sacrifice, then okay, but if you have to concede it, then it's not. The point is that let something like b6, bishop to g5 attacks the queen, you already have to play f6. And now after the bishop moves, let's say c5, you run into some nasty tactics like bishop here, and you're going to lose the c5 pawn. So that's why after bishop captures on e4, Rapport plays knight bd7. This was already played, but pawn to b5, and it is now as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. And there's a very tricky idea behind pawn to b5. If Fabi should capture, then Rapport will capture on e4, and after knight captures, he will play c captures on b5, and sort of it's a bit different, because now if let's say bishop g5, you can also play queen d5 with tempo. You attack the knight, and then if the rook goes here, the knight goes here, and so on. And you will also gain control over this diagonal, which will long term be very good for black. So instead, after this b5 move, Fabi just goes back, bishop to d3, we have b captures on c4, bishop captures, and now bishop to a6, attacking the bishop on c4, and we have a trade, captures, and queen to a4. And if you ever played against the queen's pawn opening, and you play like the Nimzo Indian or some other openings, you might run into queen to a4 quite a lot. I know I do, and that it always annoys me because it's very hard to actually deal with it. So now you have to deal with the knight and the c6 pawn here. Rapport plays queen to b6, defends both, and now bishop to f4. You don't care about the b2 pawn, of course, as the knight here is hanging, but it is a line that we should explore because it's it can get very crazy. To give you an example, if queen captures on b2, bishop to d6 is the in-between move, a very nice Zwischenzug, and after rook to d8, you will attack the rook once again, and after the rook attacks the bishop, now you play bishop captures on f6. That's the problem. And the bishop captures, and now still you don't trade. First you go for knight to e4, and now look at this. The bishop hangs with check, and also the knight on a6 is hanging. And best you can do is just play bishop captures on d4, sort of to try and give up a knight here, but you will not even do that. You will play rook 8 to b1, and you will go after the black queen. The black queen not really having all that many squares here. Let's say queen to e2, rook f to e1, you'll play queen to d3, now rook b to d1, and now you have to play something like queen to b5, and just give up a piece to survive the attack. Rook captures on d4, and white will be up a piece. So queen captures on b2 is not merely a trade-off of pieces, you will also just lose the game terribly. So rook f to d8 by Rapport instead, putting pressure on that d4 pawn, and Fabi defends it. Bishop to e5. We have knight to b4. Now the knight wants to come to d3 to put pressure on the bishop, so Fabi defends it. Rook f to d1. We have knight b to d5, centralizing the knight, and now queen back to c2. So, okay, Rapport defended well. Bishop to f8, and now Fabi could play some developing moves like rook 8 to c1. He could also maybe play h4 with the potential of a future h5, but he goes for none of that. He plays knight to g5. And what's the idea behind this move? Well, it's just a very annoying knight to look at if you're playing black here, and you can't just kick it away. If you kick it away, the knight captures an e6 check, and you weaken the g6 square, and you're just gonna lose the game here. For example, bishop g7, you eliminate the defender of the f6 knight. Also, this knight cannot move due to checkmate, so you have to capture it. Now bishop captures, and white is just completely dominating the position here. So after knight g5, knight to g4 was played, attacking the bishop, and Fabi just moves it back. We have bishop to g7, and now knight to f3. You have to defend the pawn here. So okay, Fabi does go back, and now rook 8 to c8. Seems Rapport has finished development, and Fabi goes knight to e4. Now he controls a lot of squares here, and Rapport has to be very careful about what he plays next. Probably best would be to play knight h6 followed by knight to f5. It's a great square for the knight, attacks the bishop, attacks the d4 pawn, will put more pressure, but Rapport played pawn to c5, and it seems like a great idea. You've went this long playing incredible chess against a 2800 player, or soon to be officially 2800 player, and you just play c5. You want to get rid of your backwards pawn and equalize the game completely, but this does not equalize it completely. Fabi played d captures on c5, queen captures on b2, queen captures, bishop captures, and now rook 8 to b1, attacking the bishop, bishop back to g7, and now rook d to c1. So you've traded down, material is equal, but Fabi does have the passed c-pawn, which he can already start pushing. Also, he's controlling the c7 square, so it could be very unpleasant, but still, it's equal material, so you know that probably you will be able to defend this. So let's see how Rapport plays it. Bishop to h6 puts pressure on the rook, Fabi moves it, and now bishop back to f8. Now puts more pressure on this pawn here, and Fabi advances it, pawn to c6. We have pawn to f5, attacks the knight, knight to g5. Now, you don't have f4 as it's guarded by the bishop and by the rook, but you do have to take care of the e6 pawn that is hanging. So rook to e8 by Rapport, and now rook to b7, just gaining more control over the board. Fabi promotes his rook to a pig, and now he controls the 7th rank. He's already threatening to capture on h7, so Rapport defends it with knight to e7. There are some other moves you could play here, like maybe knight g to f6, but if you play that, you give up control over the e5 square, and now it's not even easy to find a move for black. Let's say you play rook to e7, just h3. You don't really care about all that much here. And if rook captures on c6, sort of removing the defender of the rook here, you can even trade down here, because after rook captures, you will play rook captures on a7, and now you have the outside passed a pawn, and you're also going to lose the e6 pawn. Doesn't matter if you defend it, just knight d4 will pick up the pawn. So you're going to be down 2 pawns, and of course this will be very easy for Fabi to win. So he goes knight to e7 instead, now puts pressure on that c6 pawn, and now just h3, chases away the knight, knight to f6, and now Fabi goes for knight to e4. Knight to d4. You could capture an e6 right away, but also your c6 pawn is hanging. So Fabi just plays knight to d4, attacks and defends. Rapport goes for knight g to e6, captures the, first he attacks the knight, and now knight g captures on e6. Goes for the pawn, knight captures on c6, we have knight captures on f8, knight captures on d4, and now rook captures on c8, rook captures on c8, and knight captures on g6. Rook to c1 with check, king to h2, and now knight to c6, defending the a7 pawn, and it seems that Rapport came out of this little skirmish down only 1 pawn, but, you know, The reality could not be further from the truth, as Fabi plays bishop to f4. Shows that the rook here and the pawn can be attacked with the bishop. So rook to c2 attacks the a2 pawn. Seems Rapport will also win something back, but Fabi just plays bishop captures on h6 and shows that if you capture on a2, of course, none of you missed rook to g7 is checkmate. So after this capture, now he's down 2 pawns. So what can he do? He went for knight to e8, but now comes knight to e7 with check. This guards against checkmate. So knight to e7 check, king to h7 attacking the bishop, but now just bishop to e3. And he was in this position on move 40 that Richard Rapport resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So very, very interesting choice of opening by Fabi, and very nicely played by both of them. But it seems that Rapport played everything precise, and then at that one point he played c5. He just wanted to get rid of that backwards pawn and equalize the game. Fabi said, nope, that's what lost you the game. Maybe it was possible to hold it with some engine play, but yeah. Not by a human, obviously. And here you resign because there's nothing for you to do. What do you do after this bishop to e3 move? What can you even try? If you trade, let's say knight captures on e7, then rook captures with check and you lose the knight. Or you block with knight to g7 and then bishop to d4, you lose the knight again. So that's definitely not the way to go. If you try king to h8, you unpin, doesn't really matter. Just knight captures on c6, rook captures, and now rook captures on a7. Now you're down 3 pawns, and it's hard to play being down 1 pawn against Fabi. Being down 3 pawns would be madness. So there's nothing to do. There's no move you can make, and if you make no moves, then just knight captures will cost you a piece, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, Fabi defeats Alireza, he defeats Wesley, and now in the final rounds, he defeats Richard Rapport. And if he drew the game, he would be sharing first place with Lennart Dominguez Perez, but as he won, he wins clear first place with 5.5 points. So really, really amazing stuff. So Fabi goes from winning the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz to winning the Sinquefield Cup, to reaching 2,800 at the end of the year. And well, I imagine he is extremely happy. He also is qualified already for the candidates tournament, and I'm pretty sure that he is well. He's very, very confident about his chances at the Candidates Tournament 2024. What does this mean for the top ratings of the world? Well, not much. Fabi now wins a little bit more rating. He's now on 2804, so still 2800. Then we have Hikaru and the Ding, then Nepo, then Wesley, Dominguez, Perez Lennart at 2756. Alireza Firouzja lost 26 points. It was a tough month for him. Then Karyakin with 9, and Anish Giri in 10th place. Anand always here hanging on with 27.48, and so on and so on. Some other big winners, if you guys are interested: Parham Oksulu won 10 points this month, Vincent Keimer 16 points, Vidit up 22 points, Arjun Irigesi up 14 points, Noderbek 4 points. And also some of the big winners that are above 2,700 are Yesipenko and Sindarov, and also Hans Niemann, but he is not 2,700 just yet. I think he's around 2695 or something like that. But yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, and like I tweeted a bit earlier, it seems that Magnus sort of ruined classical chess for everyone, because it didn't matter how good you were, you just didn't stand a chance against Magnus. But now that Magnus sort of stepped down from the throne and he allowed others to compete for the world for the title of world champion, it seems that everyone is now playing classical. Everyone loves classical. Everyone is interested in classical, and everyone finally has a chance. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, once again, hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank David Gasparian, Mohamed Soliman, David Anthony, Robert Histenthal, and Diane Schwartz for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.